Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Stanford Psycho TV. In my previous video, I talked about the definition of psychology. In this video, I'm going to talk about 7 perspectives of psychology. And what are the 7 perspectives of psychology? Number 1, psychodynamic perspective. Number 2, behaviorist perspective. Number 3, humanistic perspective. Number 4, cognitive perspective. Number 5, biological perspective. Number 6, evolutionary perspective. And finally, socio-cultural perspective. And we will now go into the psychodynamic perspective. This perspective is closely associated with Sigmund Freud's psychoanalysis principles of motivation, which grew out of his work with mentally disturbed patients. Freud's model was the first to recognize that human nature is always not rational and actions may be driven by motives that are in the unconscious state. According to this perspective, our behavior is motivated or driven by powerful inner forces. Freud believed that if one probed deeply enough, the causes of every action or thought will be found. To know more about this perspective, you can read more about Sigmund Freud in your textbook. And now we will go into the behaviorist perspective. The famous psychologists who advocated this perspective are John Watson, B.F. Skinner, and Ivan Pavlov. The behaviorist psychologists only concerned of what is observable and what can be physically recorded. Unlike Sigmund Freud, they totally disregard the mental aspect. John Watson asserted that nearly all behavior is a result of conditioning and that environment shapes behavior by reinforcing specific habits. They seek to understand how particular environmental stimuli can control a person's particular observable behavior. Next, the humanistic perspective. The humanistic psychologists see people as active creatures who are innately good and use these inner resources to make choices to help themselves lead better lives. It's just like some Chinese saying, 人之初，性本善. They look at the mental health and well-being on self-understanding and self-improvement rather than mental illness of a person. Do read further on humanistic perspective, especially with the writings of Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow. And now we have come to the cognitive perspective. And most probably the most famous person under this perspective is Jean Piaget, who based his work on the observation of his own children. The central focus of the cognitive perspective is human thought and all the processes involving knowing, thinking, remembering, solving problems, fantasizing, attending, and understanding. They assume that only by studying mental processes and focusing on specific behaviors in an objective way can we fully understand what people do. And they also states that individuals respond to reality and not as in the objective world, but as it is in the subjective reality of the individual's inner world of thought and imagination. Number 5, the biological perspective. The psychologists with this perspective contend that experience and behaviors are largely the result of chemical and electrical activities within and between nerve cells. According to this perspective, behavior is determined by physical structures and hereditary processes. And let us now move on to the evolutionary perspective. Evolutionary psychologists focus on environmental conditions in which the human brain evolved, and they strongly suggest that the basic premise in this perspective is that natural selection is highly favorable in any organism's reproductive success. This perspective differs from other perspectives mainly due to its focus on the extremely long process of human evolution. And the most important person in this perspective, of course, is Charles Darwin. And finally, the social-cultural perspective. The main focus of this perspective is that our cross-cultural differences are the cause and consequence of a particular behavior. It explains how cultural forces affect the likelihood of different types of aggressive behavior. In another word, our society and our culture that we are living in will deeply affect how we behave and how we think. What I share with you today are the main G's of various perspectives. Please read further in your textbook or on the internet. I hope that this video will help you to summarize the main points of various perspectives. If you like this video, remember to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.